matchup. Um, Alright, so the first thing you should do upon getting into this game is just kind of take a moment to think about like the bot lane that you're facing, which is Lucy and Leona, which early levels is bringing a fair bit of kill pressure because you can't necessarily rely on your Morgana to take spell shield earlier than level 3. You can't assume that she's going to do that, and also you can't rely on her to land her binding or necessarily spell shield you. So you're gonna want to push on this early to make sure you get level 2 before Lucy and Leona, because if you don't get level 2 before Lucy and Leona and Morgana has taken binding first, you guys are basically fucked, because Leona can just EQ onto either of you, and Lucian's damage that he can follow up with is a ton, so it's either a kill or Summoner's Burnt, and no matter what, someone's gonna have to back if you don't get level 2 first and someone gets hit with a Leona Zenith Blade. Just because that's the nature of Leona. And also, if you don't push, you don't want to, by not pushing, be forced to play super passive and miss out on creeps because they got level 2 first, because they can deny you 3 or 4 creeps that way, and it's just pretty annoying. Also, oh, okay, so I guess your Nami is your support, which is even worse into Leona, but it's the same principle, really. Like, and here it's kind of a bad situation. Right out the gate, because you're not going to have the opportunity to push on this lane early because your Nami is behind you and they didn't have to leash, so they're just going to be in the lane pushing. And okay, the reason I say that Nami is worse into Leona is because Nami has nothing. If you guys don't push on this lane, Nami really has nothing to stop Leona from aggressing on you. All she can do is heal you afterward, and that isn't really going to cut it. Anyway, so okay, right there. I wouldn't necessarily tumble forward to get a creep, just because by tumbling forward, when you put yourself into position in auto range of the enemy ADC and you've already tumbled forward, at best you can trade equal, but since he's Lucian, you're not gonna. So what you're gonna want to do most of the time, unless you absolutely need to use tumble to get creeps, what you're gonna want to do is use your tumble to trade. And right there, that was fine because he didn't do anything to you, just for future reference. Alright, so stop. You guys don't need to be getting zoned by this lane right now because Leona brings absolutely no kill pressure level 1. She brings nothing to the table level 1. And if you look here, you have 3 melee creeps still at relatively full health, and they're not going to die anytime soon. And she needs to kill, or those 3 melee creeps right here need to be killed for her to get level 2. So be aware of how long it'll take her to get level 2. And definitely try to aggress on Leona at level 1 because she has nothing. All she can do is stun you, and you won't get in melee range for her to stun you. So you just have to try to poke her out at level 1, and that partially is on your Nami to try to land a bubble, which she does not have because she took heal first for some reason. So all right, anyway. But yeah, you don't need to be getting zoned by her at all until she gets level 2, and then you really need to be getting zoned by her. All right, so the best thing you can do right here is I would stay right about here, and I would make sure that you can tumble. You save your tumble and never have your tumble off cooldown because you need that up to dodge Leona E. She should be trying to use it on one of you. Also, another thing you can be doing right here is, and not necessarily in this case, but if you stand like right over here and kill this melee creep, these ranged creeps, since there's a lot of them, will walk up to right here and be hitting you, and you'll be right here outside of Leona's Zenith Blade range, and you can freeze the lane right here so you can farm really, really safely if you just take some damage from these melee or these caster minions right here. Just something to think about, because if you can freeze the lane early in a very favorable farming position for you against a kill lane like this, they're not going to have the opportunity to aggress on you until you can outscale them as Vayne. So yeah, like right there, I would have walked up here and taken caster creep damage so the lane was frozen a little bit further forward, because these are inherently going to push uh, now when this other wave gets here. And when they push, they're going to you're either going to kill all these creeps right here and it's going to push out this way, or it's going to push back into your tower. But like as of right now, it's frozen in a pretty good space. So you want to keep it there by just try to match Lucian's last hitting. Like if he's autoing creeps, then you should be autoing creeps, and if he's last hitting creeps, then you should be last hitting creeps, and trying not to let the tower hit these creeps, because it makes last hitting hard for you. A, and B, you want to be able to farm safely. That was good. So another tip I have for Vayne would be to, in an aggressive lane like this, I would take Condemn second, just because if she hits level 3 and decides to go on you, what you can do is you can be toggling your Condemn on her if she looks like she's gonna go on you. Like, say you press and hold E, and you start walking at her, and then you walk backward, right? And you never use the E. And that ensures that if she gets in range of you, for you to E her with her E, that you automatically condemn her backward, if that makes any sense. And if it doesn't, I can explain later. Basically, you have your condemn already procced. Also, you're waiting. You recognize the fact that you have a big wave of caster creeps back here, and you're waiting a little bit too long to try to last hit those minions, because these caster creeps are going to be doing a ton of damage to minions. So you got to account for that in your last hitting. And that way you won't miss as many. Just when you have a big wave of it like that, be ready to last it a little earlier than you would normally be. Okay, so right here, this is a very favorable situation for you to fight in, and I hope you recognize this, because you have a pretty big wave of caster creeps compared to their wave right here, which is about to die, and you have level 3. So what you should do is ping your Nami to walk up and try to bubble either the Lucian or the Leona, because you can poke them out of lane right here because you have kill pressure over them right now. Because if they try to fight you, they're going to be getting hurt a lot by these caster creeps, and also they don't have level 3 yet, so Leona doesn't have any innate tankiness with her W. So yeah, so that's what you're going to want to do. And preferably it would be the Lucian that she would try to binding, but it doesn't necessarily need to be. She just needs to step up, give you her, put her debuff on you. Nami needs to put her slow on you, and you need to try to fight. So you should ping that out and recognize the fact that you have a major advantage right here. And yeah, so you shouldn't have let Lucian walk up and kill another creep without going on him. That was a good bubble by the Nami. Actually, I'll just talk about this at the end. Okay, so right there, that was pretty well played by you to condemn the Lucian back, and that was definitely the smart thing. But notice how low the Leona had gotten. Like, and how far away the Lucian was standing relative to you. The Lucian with his E already burned because he used it to follow up on you. What you could potentially have done is condemned the Leona into here and then tumbled backward so that you could still be doing damage to her and also be doing damage, or also not be getting hit by the Lucian, because she put herself so far ahead of the Lucian in that lane that it was worth to focus her. Like if the support ever puts himself in a position in the lane where the AD can't follow up and do damage to them, you should be doing damage to the support at that point. That was good. Okay, right there, one thing you should realize is that Nami was pretty before that, like enough to only have the ability to do one spell, and she didn't have enough to put her debuff on you. so that you could actually trade with a Lucian. And Vayne can't straight up trade with Lucian at early levels because he'll just outdamage you every single time. And Leona obviously had burned her E, so I understand that's why you thought that you should go trade, because she had no kill pressure over you, she had no potential to get on you. But still, you need to recognize the fact that Vayne can't outtrade Lucian at early levels unless Nami has enough mana to put her debuff on you. So just be aware of your support's mana resource in the lane. And that was a really good bubble by her to try to save you. Oh, so right there, you should probably go back now, just because your guys is the wave is the wave is about even in your favor, and if anything, it's pushing a tiny bit in your favor. This way, you have the same amount of creeps, and so it's going to take Lucian a little bit to kill out all those creeps. And since you don't have a health pot left, and you don't want to have to burn summoners just for staying for no reason, you should probably just go. And in this case, I would go ahead and, because Lucian can freeze on you, obviously, right here if you stay, and that's not going to be worth for you to stay. So I would just go and force him to push it up, and I would come back with a second Durans, and I would come back with a lot of pots. That was good. That was good by the Nami, right there. But again, you still, with Nami being she's basically just a walking creep. Like, she doesn't do anything, so you can't really be up in this lane because Lucian still has the pressure to kill you. Another thing that you guys didn't seem to recognize, and you were getting pushed in on pretty hard. But one thing to be aware of is that because their bottom lane didn't have to leash, and you know that means that Vi had to, or who's their jungler? Wukong had to have started blue, which means that around 4 or 5 minutes, 3 or 4 minutes, he's probably going to be around the bottom side of the map, and that's a time to ward river, and that's a time to be careful. Yeah, so since Lucian has a higher level than you, and you're low HP without a heal, and Nami is pretty I would not be up here this far, because he can just kill you, and I think he's gonna. Yeah. And that's just something to be aware of. Like, I'm gonna rewatch that. That's just something to be aware of. Like, recognize the fact again that your Nami has no mana with which to help you. She doesn't even have enough mana to heal, I don't think, and her heal's still off cooldown. And you're just too far up against a Lucian who has more damage and more HP than you, since you don't have a heal. Like, I understand that you're thinking that it's a 2v1 at this point, so you can be that far up, but Nami is basically a walking caster creep right now. She doesn't have any mana to do anything. All she can do is auto attack to help you. I mean, you're not down too much CS, but that's just, you don't need to be dying for. I would just not die in a situation where you don't need to die necessarily. Like, it's not worth for you to die there. Also, I would tell your Nami to go back. And I don't know if she's gonna. Yeah, she should have gone back way earlier so she can be getting to the lane at the same time as you, because farming under tower is really hard in a 2v1, and I understand that they're probably gonna go back, but still, she needs to be back at the lane at the same time as you are. So if you could tell her to do that, that would be good. That's good last thing in her tower. Okay, so when they get back to lane, I'm gonna talk about items really quick. Or when the Lucian gets back. So you're not down any levels anymore, which is good, but your Nami is, which means you can't really fight, especially against Lucy and Leona. And also, I would upon seeing Lucian's items being a BF sword, I would opt for trying to almost never fight an all-out engage, because he will win that every single time just because he has more damage than you, no matter whether or not you're Vayne. But instead, I would try to let your Nami know that she needs to be putting your E on you when you have the opportunity to poke.